I'm an artist who works a lot around the topics of the history of natural history, the kind of history of the representation of nature. I work a lot about really ideas about nature rather than nature itself per se. So I'm really interested in where those ideas come from and how our ideas shape our behavior toward the natural world. I think specifically what I do is I look at the ideas that really shape our thinking about nature. And of course, many of those ideas come from the scientific world, come from the world of biology, of people who study life. But of course, scientists don't have a monopoly on what gets to be the natural world. That's something that's decided by a society in a much broader sense. And you know, I think people like hunters and people like gardeners and people who go hiking and people who take photos of the landscape all have a part in constructing our idea of the natural world for each society. And that changes dramatically as you leave society to society, or even within a society, the city to the country to the suburbs, all have very particular ideas about what gets to be called nature for a particular group of people at a particular time. Those ideas shape the real natural world, shape the world of plants and animals and microorganisms and fungi and landscapes.
On the bottom?
On va bloquer cette porte là. Kikine. Tant pis pour les sachets de sauce, mais ça reçoit maintenant.
This one too?
Science is sort of, for me, the dominant way of understanding the world. It is very much my sort of cosmology. So I feel like as an artist I'm doing something very traditional, which is representing my worldview in the same way that Renaissance painters painted biblical stories. You know, I'm telling the story of the world that I understand, and my filter that I use to understand that world is science. Science, of course, is supposed to be objective, and we know that there's a lot of problems with that. But of course, one of the things looking at science as an artist is that you realize that science has an aesthetic, you know, and that aesthetic is very tied in with the pragmatic, with the practical materials one needs to do research, but nevertheless, science develops a kind of look to it. And what science looks like, I think, is very different from how most people think, maybe what most people think science looks like. But if you go to a laboratory in Buenos Aires, it looks remarkably like a laboratory in Cologne, which looks remarkably like a laboratory in Beijing. And so you do have this kind of international visual language of how science is practiced in a way, in the same way that you have, you know, an international language with scientific data. That would be nice if we had big jars.
Ouais. Michel